Wow. That's incredible.
First time you see it?
Yeah, I mean, what's strange is I'm so familiar with some of these fragments, like that window was really like a subject of so much discussion and debate and argument, just looking at all the little shrapnel holes in kind of blurry photos. So seeing it in person, yeah, it's very strange.
Honderden uren bestudeerde hij de wrakstukken van vlucht MH17.
It's like I know these pieces, I know these holes, but seeing them in person is, yeah, it's a very strange feeling. It's kind of like I've had this weirdly intimate relationship with them, just spending so long poring over them and examining them, and just, yeah, it's very odd seeing them in person.
Want tot nu toe zag hij al deze vliegtuigonderdelen alleen op foto's en filmpjes achter zijn laptop. Nu kan hij ze aanraken. Eliot Higgins, oprichter van onderzoekscollectief Bellingcat.
Kind of takes your breath away a bit. Actually, it's like almost like a shock seeing it in a way. It's like this floor was one of the first things I kind of really zoned in on when I was looking through the wreckage, because you can see all the holes from the shrapnel, and it's really the first clue we had on where the munition had exploded. And from that's kind of where I worked backwards to figure out, you know, where did this explosion come from? You can see the holes in the glass where it came through. And yeah, even in the seats, you can see the damage where the shrapnel passed through the seats as well.
Because the rocket was from that side, right?
Yeah, so it would have exploded in that direction and the shrapnel came in from this way.
In een hangar op de militaire vliegbasis Gilserijen heeft de Onderzoeksraad voor Veiligheid deze reconstructie gemaakt van de Boeing van Malaysia Airlines, die op 17 juli 2014 wordt neergehaald boven Oekraïne. Aan boord zijn bijna 300 mensen.
Yeah, so Bellingcat was founded just a few days before MH17 was shot down. At that point, my main focus had been the conflict in Syria, where I'd used open source investigation a lot to look into things like chemical weapons attacks. And I saw straight away with the kind of footage and images that were appearing from this that there was potential to use those same techniques with this investigation.
Het toestel was op weg van Amsterdam naar Kuala Lumpur. Toen rond 5 uur contact met het toestel is verloren. Zowel Malaysia Airlines als luchtverkeersleiders op Schiphol zeggen dat het toestel toen van de radar is verdwenen.
In the initial aftermath of MH17 being shot down, there was a whole community of people who kind of formed on a kind of ad hoc basis, digging through all kinds of social media channels and then sharing it on places like Twitter.
Today, this is the third day we have been on this scene.
One thing that was very helpful is there were a lot of journalists on the ground who saw the work we were doing and what we were publishing and actually followed up that work by going to those locations and speaking to local people.
Direct na de ramp verspreidt Rusland het nieuws dat de MH17 is neergehaald door straaljagers van het Oekraïense leger.
Больше всего погибло граждан главного торгового партнера России.
Да, Голландии. Поэтому выбор малазийского Боинга, который вылетал именно из Амстердама и был, я подчеркиваю, хирургически точно выведен украинскими диспетчерами в точку.
There was lots of these claims about these Ukrainian fighter jets shooting down MH17, but there was no actual direct evidence of this. And one of the first things I started to look at was the damage to MH17. Did this look like it come from a certain sort of missile? Could it be from gun cannon, something like that? So it was really about eliminating all the possible scenarios that were being presented. And ultimately, those Ukrainian Su-25 claims relied on witness statements. And I think we know that in the best circumstances, witness statements can be unreliable.
Getuigen die valse verklaringen afleggen, fake nieuws en vervalst bewijs. De desinformatiecampagne vanuit Rusland is ongekend.
Судебное разбирательство в Нидерландах имеет все шансы стать одним из самых скандальных в истории судопроизводства, со своим обширным перечнем странностей, неувязок и сомнительных доводов обвинения, которые, тем не менее, легли в основу вердикта.
I knew what to expect from the Russian Federation, and it wasn't really a surprise when they started spreading disinformation around it. What was shocking to me, though, was how crass it was. It was not sophisticated. It was, lying about the locations of where videos filmed, things that were very easy to disprove. And that's what we did.
Bellingcat vindt steeds meer bewijs over deze Russische lanceerinstallatie van boekraketten.
We were then able to establish that a missile launcher that was filmed and photographed in Russia was the same one as the one filmed and photographed in Ukraine. We could track that back to the military base it came from in Russia, and we actually identified the military unit down to specific soldiers by their ranks and their names from their social media posts. We can't say for certain who's pushed the button. I think it's extremely unlikely that this missile launcher was handed over to a bunch of Ukrainian separatists. I'm sure it was Russian soldiers who were involved with launching the missile. I think ultimately it may not be that important. These are young men who are following orders that they've been given. And we know that the Russian military is not the most liberal place.
De informatie die Bellingcat verzamelt is zo waardevol dat het als belastend bewijs wordt gebruikt in de MH17-rechtszaak. Ondertussen wordt het onderzoekscollectief op een heftige manier tegengewerkt door Rusland.
I feel safe, but that's not because I'm ignorant of dangers that are presented to us. Ever since MH17, we've been targeted in different ways by the Russian state, through disinformation, through cyber warfare. They've attempted to hack into our accounts. We've got, real-world issues with people following us and spying on our organization.
But do you look over your shoulder?
I'm more careful than I used to be. I'm more observant of strangeness that is happening around me. If something's out of the ordinary, I want to know more about that. That specific part I remember because there was a blue baseball cap that was also on top of it in the photograph. So I always remember that very specific piece of wreckage. We always are driven to find the truth. We aren't trying to serve a particular interest or not. If with MH17 it was a Ukrainian Su-25, we'd be publishing articles about that. We wouldn't decide not to publish on that. So we go wherever the truth leads.
Bewust houdt hij daarbij afstand, om zo onafhankelijk en objectief mogelijk te blijven. Maar op sommige momenten is dat ingewikkeld.
So I remember there were a lot of very high-resolution photographs of the wreckage, and I was really zooming in and looking for stuff. And I saw there's a toy rabbit. It's called Miffy in the UK, but I know in the Netherlands it's got another name. And the exact type of toy rabbit was given to my daughter when she was born. Mm-hmm. And just that connection really hit me, like in a really shocking way when I was looking through those images. And then you become aware of all the toys that are in the wreckage and personal items of clothing, and yeah, it just really brings home the devastation of what this event meant to so many people.